Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Very Cold Lasagna, the podcast that is a safe and open listening platform for casual, cold, and even dumbest takes on the world of WWE, AEW, the NFL, and the wide world of pro wrestling and sports in general. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Welcome to today's episode number 53 of this freezing cold podcast. It's once again time to open up that very cold fridge and grab that very cold lasagna for some more weird opinions of mine on the world of the NFL, because another week has come and gone. The fifth week of the 2021 NFL season is in the books, and we're here to talk about it. We're going to be talking about all the games, my winners and losers, my players of the week, and after that's all said and done, we're going to be talking about week 6, my preview of the 6th week of the biggest season ever, John, and my picks for all the games in that bye-week riddled week. Before we start today's show, before we start the episode talking about all these games, obviously everyone's heard of the news about the now former head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, John Gruden, and former ESPN Monday Night Football commentator. He was making the rounds of these emails that were leaked, that were put out by various mainstream websites about him using certain derogatory terms, not just in one single year back a decade ago, but throughout the span of nearly a whole decade. And this is not a good look on him. This is clearly not a good look on him. And I just hope that he improves. He takes a lot of necessary steps to improve himself. He's like, I don't know if I could say his career is like over. He's probably not going to be like hired to do analyst stuff for a while, or head coaching for a while, like a very good while. He's probably gonna have to take a step back and see steps on how to improve himself as a person. And I know he can do that. Like, everyone deserves second chances, even after repeated mistakes. I make repeated mistakes. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of improving yourself. Like, finding that light to improve yourself. I mean, I don't really have much else to say in terms of advice or like anything else to add to this story, because it's been covered so many times now. But all in all, it's a matter of Gruden made a string of terrible mistakes. He made a string of terrible words to these people that he hurt, like through emails. And I just hope that he truly means what he says when he's sorry, when he said he's sorry. And I hope that he really takes whatever's next for him and grows from it. So with that being said, he's no longer the head coach of the Raiders. He's resigned. And again, I just hope that he grows from this. He learns. He learns from this. So with that being said, we'll talk about some NFL. We'll talk about some NFL to cleanse our mind, make ourselves a little more positive. I know it's been a very, very bad week for a lot of NFL fans in regards to this news, but we're gonna push through this. We gotta push through this. But that being said, obviously we gotta get through the social media plugs. We gotta mention it here. If you like what you see here, make sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified of each and every episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast and its YouTube channel. Make sure to listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM, as well as Google Podcasts, and follow the show on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. So let's talk about week 5 of the NFL season. I mentioned last week that this week was kind of like that week where the teams that had some playoff hopes, they need to make that case. They had to prove that we want to make a statement. We want to have those hopes kind of like verified, or like kind of like proving or something. But anyway, they wanted to have those playoffs hopes validated. So there are a few teams that did that this week, and others not so much. They didn't make the case to validate those claims. So we began the week that was week 5 with Thursday Night Football on Fox, the first one of the final slate of games on Fox for Thursday Night Football. And we begin with the LA Rams take on the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. Both teams struggled offensively in the first half. But for the Seattle Seahawks, aside from a DK Metcalf touchdown, the Seahawks couldn't do anything offensively. So things started to pick up in the second half offensively. But this was also for good and bad because both Matthew Stafford and Russell Wilson were dealing with finger injuries. They got their fingers injured. But for Russell Wilson, his injury would impact him like very, very badly. His injury would take him out the rest of the game. Matthew Stafford would battle through it. He seemed to be okay. And he marched his team down the field for 2 scores, and they would take the lead late in the game. But in comes Geno Smith, the backup, all of a sudden, and he marched those Seahawks down the field like on his first drive, that replacing Russell Wilson. And late in the game, it's 16-14, but the Rams immediately responded with a touchdown of their own to bring it back to 9 points. And the Seahawks tried to get back in the game, but sadly, Tyler Lockett sold the game by tripping, and he allowed an interception to pretty much seal the deal for the Seahawks losing this game, 26-17. So, man, this is tough for Seattle. Their defense is so bad, and Geno Smith is going to have to pull off his best Russell Wilson impression for about another month, because that's how long Russell Wilson is going to be out with a broken finger. So it's not going to be good for the 12 fans, the 12th man. Not good at all. So then we get to the Sunday morning slate of games. We start with the early morning slate, and I hope you all were awake for this one. I certainly wasn't, because the Atlanta Falcons were taking on the New York Jets in London, mate. I can't do a London impression, I'm sorry. So anyway, the Atlanta Falcons beat the New York Jets 27-20. And this was without Calvin Ridley, but Matt Ryan had no problems throwing it to his tight end, Kyle Pitts, and his running back and also wide receiver, Cordell Patterson. And Pitts finally got his first NFL touchdown of his career. The Jets tried to get back in this game, but if you watch the highlights, they were clearly back at sleeping at the wheel. They were like, let's get back in the third quarter, man. Let's get back in this game at the second half. So Zach Wilson was pretty much back to slinging it too aggressively, throwing yet another interception, back to being a pre-week 4 form for his team. So the Falcons win this one 27-20 as both teams are heading back to the States on their bye week. Then we got the Minnesota Vikings beating the Detroit Lions 19-17, and yet another nail biter for both teams. The Vikings pretty much had it all but won at the final 2-minute warning, but Alexander Mattison fumbled the ball to the Lions, and the Lions scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion on the ensuing possession, and they took the lead. They had a 17-16 lead with 37 seconds left. But just like with the 49ers and the Packers, that was apparently 37 seconds too much. I guess that's a theme. 37 seconds is too much for teams to leave on the clock. Because the Lions, once again, this game because they felt yet another string of heartbreak. Again, Kirk Cousins in the offense marched back down the field into field goal range. Greg Joseph kicked the game-winning field goal, and they beat the Lions 19-17. Goddamn. I kind of feel bad for this Lions team. They play their heart and soul into this game. They're not like Matt Patricia's Lions where they just they get tamed like a lot. This Dan Campbell Lions team is pretty damn good. They play hard. It's just that they get beaten to the last second, and sometimes they beat themselves too. Like, you can tell if you ever watched Dan Campbell's post-game presser after this loss, you could tell that he really wanted this. He really wanted this win. He felt it. But it just slipped away at the last moment. So, kind of feel bad for him. So then, down in the nation's capital, the New Orleans Saints beat the Washington football team 33-22. Jameis Winston had a good bounce-back game in dissecting the not-so-scary Washington defense. I don't know what's going on with Chase Young and that Washington front four. They're just not getting to him. Or not just getting to any quarterback, for that matter. And that Washington secondary is not good. So, Washington came back up late, and the problem was Taylor Heineke turned the ball over 3 times throughout this game, and the Saints were able to score on 2 of those ensuing possessions. And they pretty much sealed the deal with Alvin Kamara scoring a touchdown. That pretty much all she wrote for the Saints. So then, down in Houston, the New England Patriots came back to beat the Texans 25-22. Yes, the Texans were actually on the verge of beating the Patriots, literally. They were up 22-6. I think, or 22-12. Because rookie quarterback Davis Mills, he was pretty much throwing the ball. He's scoring touchdowns like he was freaking Joe Montana. Dismantling the Patriots defense for 3 touchdowns. I'm like, what? This is the same quarterback that got whacked by the Bills a week ago, and now all of a sudden he's like beating the Patriots. But then Mac Jones and the Patriots rallied back in the 4th quarter, tied it up, and then eventually won it on a field goal, and then they stopped the Texans from doing any lateral BS, and the Patriots win it 25-22. And then down in Miami in the Battle of Florida, the Tampa Bay Bucks beat the Miami Dolphins 45-17 in a very, very bad blowout for the Dolphins. The Dolphins actually were in this game for, well, at least the first quarter. They had a 10-7 lead, and that was pretty much all they can muster, because that 10-7 lead pretty much seemed to anger the defending Super Bowl champions. Tom Brady and company sent their South Beach rivals packing early to London, because Tom Brady went into cruise control, 5 touchdowns, and pretty much whacked their Florida rivals into London 45-17. See ya, mate. Then the Green Bay Packers beat the Cincinnati Bengals 25-22 in overtime. And I thought this was going to be a blowout by the Packers. But no, this was actually a surprising battle between Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, and as well as the defenses. They were playing terrific games in this one. But you know who wasn't playing terrific games? The kickers. Eric McPherson and Mason Crosby. They were pretty much trying to hand wrap the games. They were trying to hand wrap victories to the other teams. I'm like, are you trying to sell these games? Are you trying to sell the victory to the Packers, or sell the victory to the Bengals? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what the field goal kicking was a problem all throughout this week. But in the end, Mason Crosby was the one to break the kicking funk in overtime with a game-winning field goal, and Packers win it 25-22. The Pittsburgh Steelers finally get out of their funk, out of that 3-game losing streak that started in week 2. They beat the Denver Broncos 27-19. Big Ben finally gets out of that washed mentality for at least one game. He had a good passing game in this one, and he had that healthy balance of not just the passing game, but that healthy balance of rookie running back Najee Harris to complement that. The Denver defense was not only unable to stop the Steelers' offense from having that healthy balance, the Broncos' offense wasn't able to do anything until the fourth quarter. Teddy Bridgewater was back in this game, so he cleared the concussion protocol. But the thing was, it's just that he couldn't really move the offense until they had to rally until the very end. And they almost did. They almost tied the game, but he got picked in the end zone. So, Steelers win 27-19. Now in Carolina, the Carolina Panthers dropped 2 straight to the Philadelphia Eagles. They lose 18-21. Sam Darnold of old returned in this game. He threw 3 interceptions, and 2 of them went to Steven Nelson, the corner for the Eagles. And all 3 of those interceptions would help the Eagles get back in this game. So the Eagles were making silly mistakes themselves, but they overcame all that, and they made some good special teams plays, and they took the lead for good late in the fourth quarter. So the Eagles win it 21-18. Now, in AEW land, the Tennessee Titans defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-19. Despite a punch fumble on the first possession of the game, the Jaguars actually were in this game. They managed to keep things close against the Titans. Trevor Lawrence was playing a good game. He was much improved, like these last 2 games, and honestly, he's starting to look a little bit of the part in Jacksonville. It looks like he's finally a little settled in, despite not having the pieces around him. But unfortunately, Ryan Tannehill in that Titans offense with Derrick Henry, I keep forgetting he's there. Sorry, it's just a slight on my end, and a overturned fourth quarter touchdown that the Jaguars lost. It was just too much for the Jags to overcome. So Tennessee beats the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-19. Then we get to the afternoon slate of games. The LA Chargers beat the Cleveland Browns 47-42 in a all-scoring shootout in LA. It was like a big battle, but a mixed extra point would have made the difference for the Cleveland Browns. But like they had to get the Chargers in the end zone, because they let them in the red zone in the first place late in the game, like late in the fourth quarter. So what they had to do in the fourth quarter to give them more time to milk this end this game, they let Austin Eckler, they pushed him in the end zone to give them the lead, and that would give the Browns more time to take the lead back. But sadly for them, the skid mark in the Browns, Baker Mayfield, or Baker Midfield, was apparently too midfield for the Chargers defense that stepped up, got that last stand against this Browns offense, and the Chargers held on 47-42. Another big win for this Chargers team. Then down in Vegas, the Chicago Bears beat the Raiders 20-9. This turned, again, like I mentioned, this turned out to be John Gruden's final game for the Silver and Black. The Raiders, it was just a tough game for them, man. I think they were just too visibly shook by all this news about the email scandal of John Gruden. And they just couldn't focus on this game, and it showed. It showed in this game. I mean, yeah, they were trying to play their best, but I guess they just couldn't capitalize on those opportunities. But as for the Bears, Khalil Mack got some revenge on his old team, assisting his defense and pressuring Derek Carr, and they limited his old team to field goals. It also could have been a bigger blowout by the Bears offense, but Matt Nagy didn't let Justin Fields lose. He didn't design plays to Justin Fields' strength. Nagy, come on. Let's let him loose, please. So, I mean, a win's a win for the Bears, but, I mean, you got someone coming at home next week. We'll get into that in a bit. So, down in the desert, the Arizona Cardinals hold on to beat the 49ers 17-10. Yeah, this was I thought the Cardinals were going to run over the 49ers' asses. But surprisingly, the 49ers defense were able to contain Kyler Murray and that Red Sea attack. That is DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, pretty much everyone on offense in this game. But it was like they did just enough to pretty much seal this game away. Murray and DeAndre Hopkins were able to get a key touchdown late in the game, and that was the key difference in this game. Trey Lance made his first start in place of the injured Jimmy Garoppolo, but it's just that he was just too inexperienced. He didn't have like enough help all around, and it's clear that he's still a work in progress. And it also didn't help with the fact that Kyle Shanahan was not helping on the play calling end, and there was a lot of mediocre offensive line play in this game, but he showed a few glimpses of what he can do, like whether it's on the run or throwing on the mid and deep passes. So at least there are some good things to come out of this victory for the 49ers. But nonetheless, the Cardinals beat the 49ers 17-10 in what was a pretty sluggish and hard-hitting battle between these NFC West rivals. Now, down in Jerry's world, the Dallas Cowboys destroyed their NFC East rivals once again, the New York Giants, 44-20. Now, keep in mind, let's keep this in perspective. The Cowboys were playing a crappy team again. So the Giants' defense kept Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott in check for much of the first half. And they were doing relatively well. But everything went to shit because Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, and yes, even Daniel Jones all left the game injured. And from there, the Cowboys took advantage and ran away with this game. So the Cowboys won 44-20. And then on Sunday Night Football, this was the big win for the Buffalo Bills because not even a weather delay could keep the Bills from exacting their revenge onto the Chiefs. An all-around performance on both sides of the ball because they hammered the Chiefs secondary. They rattled Patrick Mahomes all game long. Josh Allen had a really good game. Probably an even better game than last week against the Texans. This was a statement game for Josh Allen, and he delivered. So this was a good revenge game for the Buffalo Bills. For the Chiefs, this is a very concerning loss because they got whacked at home. They lost to another playoff potential, a playoff hopeful. And this was to the same AFC opponent that they faced in the title game last year. And they look much better than they do. And Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce looked nothing like the irresistible force that most people are used to. So it's very concerning. It is very concerning for Kansas City right now. So the Bills rout Kansas City 38-20 in a very rainy Sunday night game in Arrowhead. Then to close things out for Week 5, Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens came all the way back, 22 unanswered, to beat the Indianapolis Colts 31-25. What a comeback this was. So the Colts, I was at work when I heard about this. The Colts all around pretty much dismantled the Ravens early. Carson Wentz played a pretty good game. This is probably his best game since he got injured back in 2017. And the Colts defense harassed Lamar Jackson all first half, limiting them to just 3 points. And they even made Lamar Jackson fumble the ball at the goal line, and the Colts defense returned it back all the way to their ends, to the other end zone for a touchdown. And the Colts were up 25-3, or not, 25-3, 22-3, whatever. But all of a sudden, that pissed off Lamar Jackson. He got cooking. Since that point, he hit up Marquise Brown, who didn't eat Butterfingers on that night, and Mark Andrews, his tight end. They tied up the game at 25 for 10 extra minutes of football, where the Ravens would seal the deal on their first possession in overtime. Ravens won 31-21. Now that's what Lamar Jackson needs to be doing. He needs to be wheeling and dealing in those kinds of games, and this was a very good win for him. Now, as for some of the winners and losers of Week 5, let's start with the winners. The Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, we know what might happen tonight against Tampa Bay, but the Eagles came into this their Week 5 game against the Panthers, losing to the Chiefs, big, losing to the Cowboys, big, but they bounced back. They got a win against a team that has a winning record in the Panthers, and they've overcame the silly mistakes, and they forced Carolina to make their own silly mistakes. They forced Sam Darnold to become the Jets version of Sam Darnold. So all around, this was a good performance by the Eagles. Jalen Hurts had a good game despite the crappy offensive line play around him. So they may get hammered by Tom Brady in Tampa Bay tonight on Thursday Night Football. But this was a good victory for them over a team that seemed to be an X factor in the NFC. Like, I thought that, like, the Carolina Panthers could have been like a wild card team. But I mean, it still happened, but I'm starting to have my doubts on it. The Buffalo Bills, they went into this Kansas City game with a purpose, and that was to exact their revenge from the AFC title game. And I picked them to win last week, and I was right. Like, I just passed it off. Like, I just randomly picked them, and man, I kind of feel a little proud of myself. And I didn't expect it to be in this way. They got their revenge. They did so in a big ass way. They whooped on their candy asses. Josh Allen made a lot of big plays, not just to his receivers. He made some of his own. In the rainy, moist conditions, they made some really big adjustments. They ran the ball more. They didn't throw it, like, they didn't lob it up downfield. They threw it like kind of like mid in the air, so they can just get the ball, get some air, enough air not to get to downfield. I know sentences are confusing, but anyway, they made some good plays, adjusted to the weather, and they were really, really good in this game. In that hurdle, man, that Josh Allen hurdling and stiffing that defender on that run, that was a quality play by Allen. The defense, let's give them credit too, because they pressured Mahomes into some unusual throws, and they got a pick six out of him too, to pretty much seal the deal on the game. A big team win that pretty much gives them an edge down the line when it comes to home field advantage. Come January when they're trying to go for the number 1 seed in the AFC. So they already have an edge over Kansas City or the Chargers or the Ravens. But man, it's going to be real interesting. The Baltimore Ravens, they were unable to stop the Colts. They shot themselves in the foot with a fumble at the goal line, and that resulted in a touchdown, like, for many, many yards in the third quarter. But Lamar Jackson probably had his best game ever. He threw more than he ever has. He proved that he can throw. He's not just like Michael Vick and ran the ball. He's just not like Kaepernick, where he can. He's just a running quarterback. He can throw the ball. They just have to let him do it. They just have to design play. They just have to give them that healthy balance to do so. And he helped this team to a big time win, a big time comeback win against this Colts team. And this was a very good win for the Ravens. Now, as for some of the losers, the Seattle Seahawks, man, that one whole night against the LA Rams, that's pretty bad. The Seahawks changed defensive coordinators this past offseason, and yet they still yield the worst defense in the NFL. They've allowed the most yards to opposing offenses. They can't stop them at all, and they're on pace to allowing the most yards in NFL history, and it's only week 5. That is sad. That is really, really sad. And it's been like this for 2 years. It has really been like this for 2 years. And yes, I'm a Niners fan, but let's be real. I'm trying to give some advice to other teams. Like, and yes, I'm just a guy in a chair talking about the NFL, but like, I have opinions. I have some takes. I'm allowed. I have a voice that I can use, but I'm just saying. Like, why hasn't Seattle done anything? I guess this is what happens when you give all those money, all those ducats to Russell Wilson all those years ago, and look what it's done. It has bit them in the ass, and they can't spend money on a quality defense. And look what's happened to Russell Wilson now, and it sucks. But Russell Wilson can't save them for the next month. He's going to be out with that finger injury. And Seattle's going to learn a very hard lesson that they can't always rely on Russell Wilson to win them games. And that starts against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. They're going to learn that lesson real hard. Not just in Pittsburgh, but with their upcoming slate of games. The New England Patriots. The Patriots may have won that game against the Texans, but man, they did not deserve to win that game. Like, they really didn't. They allowed 3 touchdowns and 22 points to a team that was not only shut out by 40 a week ago to the Bills, but a team they should have beaten easily. And they allowed 22 points from a rookie quarterback that played like shit a week ago to their division rivals. They made him look like Joe Montana. They made him look like Steve Young. They made him look like Troy Aikman. Like, God damn. This Patriots defense is supposed to be like amazing, and at least like good or decent. Like, they played bad. They didn't play good in this game. This isn't, like, sure, Mac Jones helped them come back, but this is not a good performance at all from this team. They were coming off their best one against Tom Brady and the Bucs. I guess they were like still having that hangover, and then they oh wait, we gotta get back in this game. But man, this is not a good performance. They had to like get a good follow up, and this was supposed to be the start of it, because they're gonna be facing a lot of tougher teams in the coming weeks, and that starts with the Cowboys at home next week. And if they perform like this, and from their fans against a red hot Dak Prescott, they're gonna get whacked. They're gonna get destroyed even harder. Not just against the Cowboys, but against much more quality opponents. Just saying. The Kansas City Chiefs. I think they just. It's tough to say what's going on with them. Like, they not only wield a very bad secondary, but they now also wield a very inconsistent offense. They play well against bad competition, and then they just play like, I don't know, ass against the playoff caliber teams. They pretty much they did okay against the Ravens, and then they pretty much like got lost, and then they let Lamar Jackson come back, and then the Chargers game, Mahomes had a very off game, and then he also had an off game against the Bills. It's going to be a growing cause for concern going forward, because while they can get away with being good against shittier teams, this game against the Bills has proven that they're vulnerable and unbeatable against the cream of the crop. They're 2-3. These 3 losses have come to 3 playoff potentials, and they're already behind in the not just the AFC West race, but the playoff race. So I know it's very early in the season, but those losses could come back to bite them much later down the line when it comes to those playoff implications. The Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to go very briefly on this because I've talked about so much at the very beginning, but their current state of their franchise is a mess right now. Obviously, with the John Gruden situation and all that media mess, and what they're going through with trying to find a new head coach, trying to heal some wounds in that situation. And I just hope that they can get this taste out of their mouth, because there's still a lot of football to go through. And I just wish everyone some peace, some inner peace, and I hope that they can get that in the next coming months and years for this organization. Kickers, they didn't exactly have the greatest of weeks in week 5. They missed a combined 10 field goals and 10 extra points. That was on Sunday. I don't know how much more they missed on Sunday night. I don't think Tyler Bass and Harrison Butker missed any, nor did Justin Tucker. Oh wait, Robin Blankenship missed a couple. So I think he missed 3. He missed 3 field goals. So 13 field goals and 10 extra points. But the most notable happening not just from Mason Crosby, not just from Eric McPherson from the Packers and Bengals respectively, but from the Colts, Roberto Blankenship on Monday night. Now, some of it may have been due to the wind, others due to ball placement, or the kickers just hooking it. But either way, it just wasn't their week. Now, as for the players of the week, the Bills' Josh Allen, he was pretty much wheeling and dealing against that Kansas City defense, and he made some very big plays of his own. Like I mentioned, the hurdle against that Chiefs defender in that game. The running back Derrick Henry, 2 touchdowns in that big game against the not so big game, but in that bounce back win against the Jaguars. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson and tight end Mark Andrews, yes, a 2-1 Player of the Week award for their efforts in Monday night against the Indianapolis Colts, and the Bills defense pretty much like clamping down on the Chiefs offense, making them very pedestrian in that game. Now, kind of like as a bonus, like a kind of like a tying a bow to week 5. I'm kind of like adding like a questions and concerns sections of the week. This will probably be a 1-week thing, or maybe like a thing that goes for the rest of the season. But I had some questions and concerns in regards to week 5, so let's talk about them. The Bills, I think they're the new favorites to rep the Super Bowl. They've been playing very well. They've been playing some of the best football out of the AFC. The Chargers are obviously there, but I think the Bills, they've learned what it was like to be in the AFC title game, and I think that experience will come back to help them. I think when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they may have been bitten with the Super Bowl losers curse. What I mean by the Super Bowl losers curse is that either the players have been getting injured, like last year's case with the 49ers, or they just haven't been playing to their usual expectations. Hence in point, the 2019 LA Rams. So when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, bad secondary play and less than stellar heroics from the offense. So maybe they have been getting bitten by the curse of being Super Bowl losers, or I don't know, maybe they're just in a funk. They're just in a really bad funk that they'll snap out of at the halfway point of the season. The Dan Campbell Lions, this is a group that the ownership, the front office can build upon. Right now, they're a pretty hard-fighting group. They're a pretty hard-nosed group. They fight hard, but they just get snake bitten with bad luck. And I kind of feel bad for them. The Seahawks, even after Russell Wilson comes back in like a month, I don't think they'll be in playoff discussion. And that's because I don't think Geno Smith can lead them to victories. I don't think that they're going to beat the Steelers, depending on if Geno Smith can actually have a repeat, an encore of his Thursday night game against the Rams. But that remains to be seen. He hasn't had a start in forever, so we'll see what happens. But even after a month, I don't think Wilson can even save the Seahawks playoff hopes, because that secondary is just so bad. It's dead last in the NFL. Now, finally, how do the Raiders approach the rest of this season? They've dealt with the John Gruden resignation. They still dealing with the aftermath of the email scandal. It's what do they do now? They've proven to be pretenders in the AFC. So they're also dealing with the aftermath. I think the best case is it's just, you can go and try to win some games, but it's more so about trying to get the best draft position possible. It's there's I don't know. I don't see any effort to try to win as many games as possible. But then again, it's you play to win. But for the Raiders, it's just a hot commodity, a hot mess right now. And again, I just hope the best for that organization and all the players involved that have been hurt by this. But it's just like when it comes to football, it's just like I don't know if they, I don't know right now where they can stand, how they approach this season. So we talked about week 5. Those are my overall thoughts and questions and concerns, winners and losers for week 5. How do you guys feel about week 5? What did you guys think about it? What were your takeaways from the week that was? Let me know how you felt. But anyway, let's talk about week 6. Bye weeks begin. That means less football for fans to watch, but at least rest and relaxation for the bye teams and its fans, which include the Falcons, the Jets, the Saints, and the 49ers. Early bye weeks, I'm not particularly a fan of. At least I think bye weeks should at least be around the halfway point in the season for teams. Like that should be like the first bye week for teams, week 8, because that's like a good starting point, and then working your way up, because early bye weeks don't really help those that have it. So I'm just saying, as for the team still playing, they're either still vying to sustain success, still trying to get those playoff hopes steady, or just trying to like find that success and build upon it for either next week or next year. So let's go into these games, take a look at them, and give you my picks for the week that is coming, week 6. And we start with Thursday Night Football, as the Tampa Bay Bucks go to the city of brotherly love to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And even with the rough secondary, the Bucks should have no problem getting to Jalen Hurts and that bad offensive line with their superior front four, led by Shaq Barrett. And Tom Brady on offense is going to have another field day against an inferior NFC secondary in the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Bucks are going to win this comfortably, while I'm watching the Giants hopefully win Game 5. The San Francisco Giants, by the way, hopefully win the NLDS Game 5 against the LA Dodgers tonight. Hopefully. I hope. So the Bucks, I think, will beat the Eagles soundly tonight on Fox. As for Sunday's slate of games, in the early morning, again, at early ass o'clock, just like last week, the Miami Dolphins will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, mate. In the early ass o'clock game that no one wants to wake up for. I mean, except if you want to wake up for Trevor Lawrence. I think he'll continue his improvement, though. And, yeah, Tua Tagovailoa is going to be back for this game, but I don't think he'll make a difference. I don't think he's going to make a major improvement for a Dolphins offense that's been very stagnant, and they still have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going to get his second win over a hapless Dolphins team in London, mate. So the Kansas City Chiefs are going to travel to the nation's capital to take on the Washington football team. Now, Taylor Heinicke may have some fun with this very bad Chiefs secondary, but I don't think he'll be able to overcome Patrick Mahomes and their talented group of skilled players. I think they're going to have a bounce back game from that poor loss to the Bills on Sunday night. So I'm going with the Chiefs over the Washington football team. Now, New York Giants are going to host the LA Rams on their honoring of their 10th anniversary of their Super Bowl 46 winning season. Like, okay, okay, I guess. I mean, that's all they're going to be happy for, because the Rams offense is just going to steamroll through Daniel Jones and G-Man in New York. So the Rams are going to destroy the Giants. The Houston Texans traveled to Indianapolis to take home the Colts, take on the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are going to return home to host a potentially red-hot Texans quarterback, Davis Mills. He's going to be looking to follow up on his 3-touchdown performance. But the Colts are going to be peeved enough after the Monday night choke job that they committed, and they'll take care of business over their AFC South rivals. Hopefully, at least. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions, as the Lions will try to overcome more trial and heartbreak and more lining against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But I don't think that will happen for the Lions, because That tandem of Burrow and Chase is just going to be too much for them to overcome as the Bengals bounce back from last week's tough loss against Green Bay. Speaking of Green Bay, the Packers are going to be traveling to the UFO, that is Soldier Field, to take on the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields faces his second big test when he faces the Bears' Schlag Daddy, Aaron Rodgers, and the Green Bay Packers, who will smack them all over Soldier Field once again, and the Packers will soundly beat around the Bears again. The LA Chargers go to Baltimore to take on the Ravens in probably the game of the week. Yes, I'm saying this. This is going to be the game of the week. I wish this was in the afternoon, but it's not. It's in the morning, and I wish this was on TV. I wish it's on CBS, but it's not. Instead, we're getting the Packers and the Bears here in the Bay Area on Fox. I don't know why, but whatever. So for this game, the Chargers and the Ravens, they're coming off two wins. At least for the Chargers and the Ravens, they're coming off big wins, but yet they're facing a tall task in facing each other after those said huge wins. Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson have been playing really good football lately, but I think Justin Herbert is just going to do just enough. I think he's been playing the better football than Jackson is, and he's going to do just enough to get LA the very close victory on the road for the Chargers. So I'm going with the Chargers in this one. And in the final game of the morning slate, the Minnesota Vikings travel to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have a good enough defense to keep a Vikings offense that hasn't done much to inspire me in the last two games. I mean, Kirk Cousins hasn't been like a turnover freak or a conservative passer, like, captain checkdown lately in these two games against the Browns and the Lions. But it's not like their offense is moving either. So I think Sam Darnold, he will bounce back in this game against a Vikings defense that's still very beatable. He's had two games, and I think Darnold will bounce back. So the Panthers, I think, will beat the Vikings in what should be kind of like a slow game. I think it'll be a slow game because both teams are kind of like struggling right now. Then we get into the afternoon slate of games. The Arizona Cardinals travel to Cleveland to the Dog Pound to take on the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cardinals' offense was pretty limited by the 49ers last week, as I mentioned, but don't expect that to be the case this week against a mediocre Browns secondary. And if you're expecting Baker Mayfield to put up a fight, it could happen, but then again, I probably don't expect it against a somewhat good Cardinals defense. So I'm going with the Cardinals on this one. They're going to make the Browns the skid marks again this week. The Las Vegas Raiders traveled to the Mile High to take on the Denver Broncos. We're going to see how this Raiders interim head coach is going to do against the Broncos, who are looking to bounce back after two bad losses. And I think Teddy Bridgewater and company are going to bounce back against a team that's just been in full free fall. So the Denver Broncos will take care of business at home in the Mile High City against the Raiders. And the Dallas Cowboys traveled to New England, to Gillette, to take on the New England Patriots. And even against shitty competition, the Cowboys have been on a tear. Dak Prescott's comeback tour goes to Foxborough to take on Mac Jones and Bill Belichick. Now, the Patriots defense, if they had a hard time containing Davis Mills, they're going to have a hard time, an even harder time. They can just wait until they face Dak Prescott. This Dak Prescott, not the Dak Prescott that they faced in 2019, the Dak Prescott they're facing this Sunday. And that's not to say that I'm trying to discount them, but like their performance against a rookie quarterback that they got shut out, that got shut out a week ago. Yeah, this Patriots defense is kind of concerning. They're going to be facing Prescott in their no longer ominous home of Gillette Stadium. Like, seriously, ever since Brady left, it's like opposing teams have been able to beat the Patriots. Seriously. So I think the Cowboys are going to light up the Patriots' asses in, I'm going to say a total blowout, but it might be a close blowout. So in the Sunday night game, the Seattle Seahawks travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. The Seahawks begin game 1 with no Russell Wilson. It'll be the first game that Russell Wilson doesn't start in his 10-year career. And it's going to be a tall task for Mr. Geno Smith to beat a Steelers team that finally got out of its funk on both sides of the ball against Denver in Week 5. As for Big Ben, I think he's going to have a repeat performance against a bad Seahawks defense. And I don't really have much else to say about it because, well, I think, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I think Smith was able to sling it in the absence of Wilson. I don't know if the rest of the offense will keep up. And who knows if Smith will be able to have a repeat performance from his Thursday night relief effort against the Rams. So we'll see. But I don't really have much confidence in it. So I'm going to go with the Steelers. And in the Monday night closer on Monday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills traveled to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. And the Bills are looking to continue building off their success from their victory over the Chiefs with a road trip to face the Titans, while the Titans return home from their 2-game road trip against the Jets and the Jaguars 1-1. The Titans still run by Derrick Henry on the offensive side, and their defense, however, remains an issue. Their defense was still kind of struggling, even against the Jaguars. Like, man, they're in AEW land. The Jaguars should be sucking. But, or the Jaguars on all sides should be sucking, and yet the Titans let them get plastered. So, as for this game, expect Josh Allen and the offense to tear apart that Titans secondary, and for the Bills defense to pretty much put the clamps on Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones. That's if he's playing, though. So, those are my picks for Week 6 of the NFL. We got 4 teams on bye, so that's about 2 games less this week, and it's probably going to be even less the next week when more teams are on bye. But that includes my 49ers. They're on bye this week. I'll be talking about them in their dedicated episode that's coming this week. But even then, there should be a lot of interesting games to check out all weekend long. Week 7, not so much, but we'll get there when we get there. So what do you think about my picks for Week 6? Let me know how you feel any way you can. Comment on YouTube. Comment on the social media posts. Direct message, any way you can. And also let me know your takeaways from Week 5 and anything in relation to the NFL. Any way you can. But overall, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. Thank you all for tuning in to this fine episode number 53 of this freezing cold podcast. And it was a very interesting week. That's all I can say. It was a very interesting week. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for taking your time in the day to check me out, whether it's watching on YouTube or listening to an audio platform. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on that notification bell of Very Cold Lasagna to be notified each and every episode that comes out. And listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor FM, and Google Podcasts. And follow the show on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of pro wrestling and sports in the fridge, cold as ice, and tasty like Very Cold Lasagna. And until next time, peace out.